Hi, Dorothy. Hey, Lynn.
Hi, Todd. Hi, Dorothy. How's everyone?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
I think I lost an earring somewhere.
Uh-oh.
Darn it. Oh, well, I'll just have one earring in today.
You can be a gypsy.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I was just going to do something. What was I going to do? Huh. All right. Well, where is everybody? Let's get going. Here comes Darrell.
Once Darrell's here, we can begin.
That's right. Hi, Darrell. Well, that's what I was going to do. I was going to change my name here. So I'm not UUCS admin. Behind that. Mr. Mosier's amongst us.
Hi,
How are you?
pretty good, pretty good.
I think this time we got the time right, guys, so we can start at 6 instead of 6:30 like last time. Hi, Betsy. Oh, she's not ready yet. Here comes Dick. I don't know if I should expect Catherine or not. Has anybody else heard from her?
I haven't.
No,
I think
I heard from her. I'm sorry, it took me forever to unmute. She won't be here tonight.
she won't be here.
Lynn. Yeah.
She won't even pop in and write us a poem.
That's exactly what I texted her. I said, Catherine, you need to come and sing us a rap.
Oh,
definitely.
that'll be part of my update, I think, for tonight, because people need to know about the talent on this board.
I think I think we have a new tradition.
We'll just wait for Craig then. So
Was there an agenda floating around?
You want me to send it to you, Tom?
Yeah, if you would, please.
Sure.
thanks, Dick.
Yeah.
Sometimes
was
it's
it not
attached
published
to the
or-
Zoom meetings.
I just stuck it in the chat too.
So Tom, you should be getting 4 documents, the agenda and then so 3 others for tonight's meeting.
Which address, which email address? Oh, I see it.
Okay.
It's the problem with having 6 email addresses.
6. Only have
I know.
2 and I can't keep that straight.
I have several and I found out stuff was sent to the other address, after I would have been helpful to know about it.
I've got your email, but I'm having attachments to it. Maybe they're coming along slower.
Really? Let me just check. Okay, so the message I sent, and it is, dispatched, so it's off in cyberspace. And it has the 4 documents: board priorities, proposed bylaws adoption, the schedule, the minutes of our last meeting, and then our priorities for next year.
Oh. Yeah, I've got your message. It just says this message has no content.
Really? Okay, maybe somebody else can try. I mean, I've done my best. But at this end, it looks like you should have them, but obviously you don't.
Yeah, unless they just come along slower. But don't hold the meeting up for me, that's for sure.
I put the agenda in the chat. Can you see that, Tom?
I've got to go get myself back.
And I'm happy to share my screen when we get to the other parts of things if we want to do that. Not sure.
Finally, it might be a good way to do it.
It came through in the chat. I don't know whether I can print it or not. I'll have to try that.
Anybody have Craig's phone? Quick text to Craig.
I just texted him. I'll give him a call here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Maybe he's out hiking, guys.
Craig says he's trying to get into the meeting, but his computer is freezing up. So
Oh, darn it. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes.
There we go. Greg, welcome.
Hi, Craig. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? I
Shoot.
no.
On Monday, it took him a while between video and audio for both to get coming through.
I have the agenda now.
Okay.
Great.
Well, he doesn't look too worried about it. Craig, can you hear us? Can't hear us now. I don't know. I don't have any ideas. Anybody have any ideas?
I think this is technology goblin night. I mean, my attachments aren't going to Tom and Craig's audio isn't getting to us. And
Well, I think we'll start the meeting and he will figure out that he can't hear us and then maybe log back out. It looks like he's on his phone, doesn't it? Oh, there he's trying something. Is he communicating with you, Darrell?
Yes, he just said that he's on, but is not getting audio, so he may be trying to get on again.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order and get started, and hopefully Craig will figure that out. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have a quorum.
Yes, we do. Good. Okay. So, do we have anything that needs to be amended for this particular agenda, or anything anybody wants to adjust?
So I thought it might be a good idea to discuss the topic of Todd's minister's minute a couple of weeks ago about the action of the whoever it is, the UUA or the MFA or the who knows who.
Okay. Let's see if we can't add that to our list down before we go into executive session, I think maybe. Yeah, Tom? Oh, do we need to make a vote? Sorry.
Yeah.
You're muted, Tom.
Yeah, you're muted, Tom.
First, just a small point, you don't need to adopt an agenda. Technically, if you adopt an agenda, then to change it or alter it, you have to go through a motion and a second and everything and all that, and a vote of the people and all that stuff. So for a board meeting, it's adequate and sufficient just to have an agenda which serves as a guide, and you can amend it, and you don't need to formally adopt it, because if you adopt it, then you have to go through motions to change it. But the thing that caught my eye was the executive session. If you are going to complete, as you say, the agreement on the ministerial agreement, and you want to come back to actually vote in approval of it, then you need to come back into session, because you can't vote, in the executive session. And I don't know whether your intention is to do that, approve it or not.
Oh, thanks, Tom. I don't think we were going to do that, to vote on it necessarily. I think I said the same thing last month, actually, that we were going to complete it then. That's the goal, to get it done. And then, I don't know, so we have to be in a board meeting to vote on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're entering into a contract with Todd, and that takes an action of the board.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, maybe we'll get that done in December for the vote. But
Yeah.
the work can be done tonight, hopefully. Okay, so we don't need to, I can just add Dick's point to this agenda then. That's correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we do need to approve the minutes from last month. Does anybody have any changes or additions or corrections? I have one tiny little one, Dorothy, and I'm a little embarrassed about it. I did the opening, I did the opening words last month because Todd was not with us, and I stole them from Lisa Conger's Facebook page, but they were not written by Lisa Conger. They were written by somebody named Saint Seraphim of Serov. And they were just posted on her page. So I apologize if Lisa would probably be really happy she got credit for that, but that was the only thing I noticed. Thanks, Dorothy.
I have one thing. I don't know whether it's a correction or not. So when we were discussing the endowment team, it states that the UUCEF charges 6% management fee, which I don't believe is accurate.
Correct.
That may have been reported accurately, so I don't know whether we need to change that or leave that as it is. I think it was reported as it was, or it was recorded as it was reported.
Correct.
Yeah,
Can we add a note at the end of that section about what we found out was the actual fee?
What you could do is add a note to refer to the current day's minutes and then make your correction in these minutes.
So I don't recall that exact fee. Do you have that, Daro?
Well, I think it was discussed when the endowment team gave the report. But I haven't gone back and looked at the recording.
No, I mean the corrected fee.
I think it's about 1%.
yeah, it's approximately 1%.
So maybe if we just add that as a correction, that it's approximately 1%. And we're going to get more information from the endowment team when they come to report to us again.
So do you want to make the correction to last month's meetings or make a note in this month's meetings?
Well, I
or
think Tom was
this
suggesting
month's
that we
minutes?
say in the previous meetings to refer to this month's minutes and put that correction in, that it's approximately 1% fee, not 6% for
I
this.
think-
month's minutes.
I think since the meeting minutes are posted and they're obviously in error, we should make the correction now before they're posted.
Yeah, I think
Put
that's
in
probably,
parentheses,
I think so too.
yeah.
Yes.
yeah. And actually we could say, it said 6.5% and we could just say, this is actually 0.65%. I think one component, Darrell, of I think the managers of the different funds, I think they charged 0.65%.
We could actually just take that sentence out.
Yeah, that would probably be better.
Yeah, that's probably the
Better,
best.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just delete that.
Dorothy, you're muted. Are you trying to?
Can you clarify exactly what you want done?
You want, so
You-
Dorothy, in the paragraph under endowment team.
Mhm.
we are on 1, 2, 3, fourth line from the bottom, where it states UUCF charges 6% management fee with 2% a normal charge.
Got it.
Let's delete that sentence, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? So, so do we need to move now to approve those minutes as corrected?
So moved. I move we approve the minutes as corrected.
And anybody have any problems with that? We can agree by consensus, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Todd, will you open this meeting for us with some lovely words?
I've got some words here that are actually some Buddhist vows, but I thought they were sentiments that probably anybody of goodwill would share. So, may all sentient beings be well and enjoy the root of happiness, free from suffering and the root of suffering. May they not be separated from the joy beyond sorrow. May they dwell in spacious equanimity, free from craving, fear, and ignorance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love their
Very nice.
sentiments.
Wonderful. Okay, next is me for the President's Report, which is always right now a bylaws workshop update. So we continue to meet every Monday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. And we are nearly completed. We have a couple of things still in the article that includes the ministerial agreement, which we're going to hopefully complete the work to make sure those things are all married up this evening. And then we have a couple of things in the endowment teams section. And then we have some definitions that we're going through. And then I just wish there were more people at our board meeting tonight, because I would love to encourage and get people to consider wanting to join us, not only even just on Monday nights if they're interested, but perhaps running for a board position, because this is a really fun group of people to work with. And we really do, I mean, we do get a lot of work done. It's very, very time consuming, has been taking us quite a long time. And we're getting really excited about presenting the bylaws revision to the congregation. But we also do really enjoy, I think, at least I do, I'm pretty sure everybody else does too. Catherine, I do want to tell you that Catherine joined us late last week because she's with her mother, who is elderly and ill right now, hopefully doing a little bit better. But she joined us, and we made a little comment about sticking some poetry lines from Lisa Conger actually into the bylaws, and when we were going to present them to the congregation, just to see if people could find them, just as something fun to do. And Catherine had signed on and said she just wanted to hear our voices and be with us on Monday and kind of sit quietly and join us. And then about, I don't know, she sat quietly for about 5 minutes. And then about, I don't know, 5 minutes later, she broke into this little rap song that she wrote about bylaws, just sitting there in 5 minutes flat. And it was so adorable. And so we're gonna make that our, maybe that'll be our introduction to the whole bylaws when we're all done and ready, because it was just so adorable and so fun. So if you're interested and you want to join us on Mondays, you're certainly welcome and invited. And if you know anybody who wants to join this board coming up, it's going to be pretty soon that we're going to need a couple new board members. Maybe Catherine and Candace won't want to leave. We don't know. So that, I think, is my report. That's what we continue to do. Keep working on those bylaws. And as usual, I can't not thank Tom Mosier for his assistance and contributions every week, unfailingly. So that's been so helpful. All right, Todd, minister's report.
Yeah, well, I think since Candace does such a great job keeping us apprised of what's going on in the operations team, I'll just fill you in a little bit on the things that I've been up to, things outside of what you probably normally see anyway. So the last 2 months on my Sundays out of the Spokane pulpit, I've spoken at a couple of congregations, fellowships in the region, one up in Kalispell that I've been speaking at apparently since I was 50, because they said the first time actually, no, this was the one in Twisp. The one in Twisp said had been the first time I spoke there was when was on my 50th birthday. So it's been a long time since I'm going on 58. And then up in Kalispell, where I've also spoken probably 7 times or more over the years. And this both times was the first time they'd had in-person services since COVID started. So it was an honor to be there, and also good that they have not been dissuaded by the so-called controversy. They are aware of it, and they're been very supportive and curious about what's going on. Although I think I've only spoken at the congregation in Coeur d'Alene one time over the years. We have had several of their members have come to our services and still do from time to time. I do understand that congregation's in a little bit more of conflict over this. There are some that are very, very much on the other side of things. So that one's in conflict, but it was nice to do that. I've always sort of considered that kind of a part of my work here, is to be a bit of an extension minister to other UUs, and now is more important than ever. The other thing I'm working on is, some of you probably remember the environmental action I did about a year ago, maybe a little more now, where I saved my trash for a year. And I just couldn't let it go. I actually kept that trash in boxes for quite some time, not because I'm a pack rat, because I'm not, but because I just wanted more people to be able to somehow experience what a year's worth of trash looks like. And so last year I invested in some 360 video equipment, and I've been producing a video working with the city waste to energy department to put together a 360 video where we'll be able to both see what this trash looks like, what it's composed of, and then what happens in our community to the trash. So you'll sort of see it here in my home. You'll see it at the recycling center. You'll see what happens to it after we recycle as much as possible, and then find out where it goes from there. And it's been quite a labor, because the technology is very different. It's very difficult, and I don't have a lot of time to work on it. So I've been working on it for, bits and pieces for months, because mainly just learning software and trying to figure out how to, how to take 6 pieces of video and put them together as one, and have the audio and ambisonic surround. But it's getting close, and I look forward to, being able to share that piece of environmental work with the world. And my first practice piece was rather simple, but it was about 4 or 5 shots I took of the redwood forest last year. And people can just kind of go in, with the headsets and stand in the redwoods, and just, it sort of switches about every minute to 4 different beautiful shots in the redwood forest in Crescent City, California. So anyway, that's a new medium for me to try to message some of our values, really, as Unitarians. So I'll look forward to being able to show that piece to the congregation.
Wow.
Yeah. The only other thing I had mentioned in my report is I'm starting to see what I maybe is just hopeful thinking on my part, are sort of cracks in the UUA. I know there's a one individual on their board that recently resigned, who in my estimation was one of the worst people to have on the board. The president of the UUA made a comment recently that the way they handled the hiring controversy was a mistake. And then, that was the 2017 controversy that sort of started a lot of stuff, the accusations of us being a white supremacist organization. And then there was a strain, I still get the articles that probably most of you get from the UUA. Anybody who's a member, the president sends something out. I don't know if it's once a month or once a week or whatever, but there was one last week talking about our common humanity. Now, this is a very strange thing, because so one of the accusations I've made is that you're not living by our common humanity principle. And so I, of course, wrote back. I don't know if they see them, but I emailed back and just said, this is ironic that you would talk about common humanity, since your woke racism is segregationist and is dividing the human family. But in any case, I'm wondering, is there enough ideological pressure coming from the other side that she, in this case, is is starting to try to address, slightly address those who might be concerned. That would be good. It also shows the political nature of the mindset that, let's see which way is the wind blowing, and I'll adjust my narrative, which doesn't make me respect anybody anymore. I'll put it that way. But those to me are signs perhaps that there is a shift going on.
Isn't it the case that the UUA is going to be electing a new president next year?
I think it's 2023.
2023.
I think they have one more year. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering if it's connected with that in any way.
Yeah. Could be getting close. Tom.
Well, I might add to what Todd has just said. As many of you know, or many of you got an email out from me, which went blind copied to about 200 individuals and churches and UUA officials. And as a result of that, I've been in a dialogue, kind of an observer, but occasionally contributing to what's now a thread of 49 emails long from individuals in the Saltwater UU Church, that's south of between Tacoma and Seattle, a UU church. And this is about a half a dozen individuals in their congregation, including one from a Seattle church that's in touch with them, who are in the last day or two have met in a coffee shop to present to their minister who signed the original letter that criticized Todd at GA. They're in very much disagreement with her, and they actually are in working with their board president to bring their congregation to some kind of I don't know whether you'd say controversy, but some kind of a discussion. And apparently last June, they had a congregational conversation about what's going on at the UUA, although nothing came of it. And that's one of their criticisms, that the minister never carried through with it, because they apparently felt that they had a case that the congregation needed to have a serious discussion. And one of their comments in one of their letters was that they sat in on the UUA board meeting and they thought there was a change in the mood of the board. They didn't once mention white supremacy culture in that board meeting, and there was some other action they thought that was taken that was suggesting, as Todd is, a possible moderation of some of the hard points that they've been hammering. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Quick other question. The groups up in Twisp and Kalispell, are those fellowships?
They are. Yes.
And I have one quick question for you, Todd, about the film that you're producing. Will that be a YouTube film, or?
It will be YouTube. It'll be 360, and on YouTube you can watch 360 on your laptop, and you'd have to take your cursor and scroll, move the screen around, and you can see in 360. If you have a headset, then you can. It's like you're there, which is the way I prefer it be seen. But yeah, people will be able to.
Wow, great. Well, congratulations. That's pretty exciting.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to having it done. As I say, it's been a long labor of love, and I've since I'm interviewing people throughout it, I have to keep wearing the same clothes, making sure I don't look very different, and So.
Yeah. So when you do 360, is that stereoscopic? You have two different views, and you get the effect of 3D as you look around.
It's according to what kind of camera you use. A lot of the consumer grade cameras are not stereoscopic. They're just 2D, but it's a powerful experience even in a 2D. My camera gives me lots of options, and so I actually filmed this in 8K 3D surround, and so now it'll get dumbed down on YouTube to what they call 4K, which is really less than 4K because of the the technology, but it'll be as higher quality as again. But it is 3D, which I like the 3D. Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. All right, Candace, the ops team report, please.
Okay, I have 4 items. Some are kind of long. The total for this year's community auction was $5,686, which was, I think, over what the goal was, 5,000. So that's good. The team continues to review the church's 5-year strategic plan. They do that once a year. The review of section 2, financial sustainability, was completed this month, which included the sections developing additional sources of revenue, encourage generosity, promote the endowment fund, consider multi-year budgeting, and maintain fair share status with the UUA. This year's fair share was budgeted at $3,000, which is considerably lower than what we have sent in the past, but it's what we can manage at this time. Recently, the office has been fielding more calls from various groups interested in renting our facilities. And with the church not able to rent out the kitchen space, I'm not sure why. Is there something about nonprofits, or Todd, you might know about that. But anyway, this has somewhat reduced the number of groups following through with commitments because they can't use our kitchen because we can't let them. So Todd, you might be able to.
Yeah,
on why.
As much as I love Jay Inslee, a couple of years ago, I don't know if you call it crackdown or not, but they let congregations know that they were going to be very strict on the tax laws and that there were very specific number of hours that a nonprofit can rent its space out to for-profit endeavors of any kind, whether it's a business or anything else. So the only thing we can really, rent our space to is nonprofits. And any time we rent it out for anything else, it cuts in. And it's just a few hours a year. It's really, really low. So we couldn't possibly rent it out to a business that wanted to use the commercial kitchen, or our nonprofit status would be threatened, that kind of thing. So they just cracked down, and we had to change our behaviors dramatically. It's happened all over the state. So it's really too bad, as we see Amazon come into Spokane and pay no taxes, that the churches have to worry about making a few extra bucks off of their buildings, but that's the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the third point, buildings and grounds. The damaged lights in the parking lot were fixed and latched with security bolts to prevent future attempts to disable the lights. The gate for the parking lot to prevent unauthorized uses of the lot has been ordered and should be delivered in a couple weeks. A fire inspection was conducted by the fire department this month, which highlighted possible additional safeguards in the RE wing, including how to increase safety by making alterations to the fire doors that are already in place. Adding 2 additional security cameras was discussed to the foyer and the parking lot. And then as there continues to be ongoing damage to the back of the church, I guess under the eaves by birds, an audio bird deterrent has been ordered. So I think a lot of different things have been tried to no avail. So, so we're ratcheting up our strategies. And finally, the church's holiday hours have been put on the calendar, accessible on our website. So that is it.
Thanks, Candace.
You're welcome.
Those darn birds.
I know it.
It's a beautiful space. You can't hardly blame them.
That's true. What kind of birds are doing it? Do you know, Todd?
Yeah, it's the flickers. It's a type of woodpecker that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
And they're attacking the wood?
Yeah, it's actually mainly on the outside of the chapel.
Okay.
Yeah, they've done a lot of damage. We've done a lot of things to correct it, but they just moved to another spot.
Oh,
Well, okay, guys, I'm going to move us forward on to the next item here. We're going to have an all board discussion because Rebecca is waiting for our budget priorities for the coming year. And so I did bring, I sent you all because Dick had sent us all an email from the way we went about that last year. And so I just sent you a list of our board priorities for 2021, and I'm going to share my screen and bring that up so that everybody can see what we did last year, and we can, and then we can get this to Rebecca for her as the budget. The budget process, I guess, is about to begin. So last year, those were our order. That was our order, our ranking order. Oh, minister.
yeah.
Oh, geez, I didn't know what you meant by that, so I haven't given any money away all year.
Yeah.
I was kind of looking at this whole list thinking, gosh, we were so young. We were so new. But I mean, I think I kind of thought that was a funny one. I wondered what we thought about that. Like maybe you weren't going to. And so now that we're much more familiar with our bylaws and the ministerial agreement, I think that one is up to Todd anyway. So that's his fund to deal with. So anybody, what are your priorities, guys?
I'm curious, this very last one down at the very bottom of the page, budgeted wages and COLAs for minister and staff. Where do we stand with that? I know that Todd took a cut last year to help make ends meet, but I think if my memory serves me right, that we brought it back up in the budget that we adopted on this past June. Is that?
We never paid him back.
Well, I will have to say, one, you did bring it back up. My intention when I asked to reduce my salary was that it was going to be permanent. So I was, as much as I appreciated, it coming back, that was a surprise to me. And I think that's enough. And maybe we have to take that cut again at some point. I don't know. But in any case, I think we did well with the generosity campaign this year. And so things are looking good to where we shouldn't have to worry about the COLAs and whatnot this year. Now, some of that, of course, is from being able to take advantage of the COVID relief package. But nevertheless, we did meet our stewardship campaign. We weren't behind or anything. So I think things are looking good overall.
Mhm.
Also, I think when we go into executive session, we can talk with Todd about how he's paid, because what the terms in the contract are not what I found when we reviewed the payments this year. So that'd be a good time to lay that on the table, and so we could all have a thorough understanding of how you're paid, Todd.
Well, that would be nice. That's been something that has been, well, we can talk about it later, but it's been something that, as I understand it, has been kind of screwy the whole time I've been here. And I thought they had it corrected under Graham.
Yeah, so that we'll just later tonight, we'll talk about it in detail there and
Okay.
go over that.
Tom?
Well, about the COLAs, in the previous fiscal year, the COLAs were left out for the staff, as I recall, and I inspired and started a kind of a private campaign, which ultimately got board approval to go ahead and do it. And my understanding was that the amount of money that came in exceeded the COLAs for the staff, and there was some comment that I recall, and you all can correct me, that there was the excess was going to be saved and put aside either in the event that that happened again, that we had to reduce the COLAs. Does anybody recall anything like that? And is there anything in place that anybody knows of, if my recollection is correct?
I don't know.
Yeah, that is correct, Tom. There was some left. I can't remember how much. And they put that aside in case it would be necessary for the following year. I do think we're talking about that would have been applied to this year's budget, though, in last July. I think that, initially this was a year and a half ago, and then if there was some left for COLAs, it would have been applied in last year's or this year's start of this year's budget.
I think we should work to make sure we have funds for cost of living for the staff for 2022, 2023. I think we should keep that as one of our priorities. So Todd indicated he didn't want a COLA, I think, but I think we should have it for staff. Or try to see if we can do it for staff.
I'd also,
Oh, go ahead, Craig.
okay, I'd also like to add what I sent out here in the email just before the meeting, that we monitor the UUA restructuring and the punitive measures they are taking.
Oh, okay. So sort of a outside of budget issues, just monitoring the UUA,
Yeah,
monitoring the
just a
UUA
board.
one.
Yeah,
Board,
right. A
thing.
written
Okay.
down board priority. Yeah.
Monitor UUA. How did you phrase that? I don't think.
Well, I'm looking at them as they restructure from, a loose knit association servicing the churches to a top down. So it's just monitor the UUA restructuring and their punitive measures that they're taking to enforce their dogma.
Okay.
Well, number 2 from last year, taking care of the building. Well, we did replace or fix the damaged areas of the floor and then have the whole floor refinished. So that was good. I'm just wondering whether, we know we're going to need a capital campaign for the roof. And I'm not sure exactly if we have a deadline that roof has to be replaced by, or ideal time to replace it, but I know it's coming up.
I'm sorry, Candace. I was just going to say somewhere there is a whole, I don't know if it's just one single document or something that they called a repair and replacement plan, if you will, for lack of.
Well,
there's
a repair and replacement fund.
There is a repair and replacement fund, but I think, but it's, I don't know that it's where it's at, and I don't know what our priorities are, but I think that that's kind of what I would like us to have, at least as a focus, something particularly focused on that repair and replacement fund, that those funds are nicely protected, maybe, I don't, for lack of a better term, too. But I don't know how we're gonna, I mean, we're gonna have to do something eventually if it's a capital fundraiser or something for such a cost as a roof. But there are other things, I think that, I want to say Dan Ekrit was a person that kept track
Yes.
of that.
Yeah, there was just exactly what you're talking about long before you might have been sensitive to it. There was a repair and replacement plan that was developed probably 12 or 15 years ago. And in it, it had the things that needed to be done in a rough timeline for it. And then as I got out of that part, Dan got more into it. And I thought it was actually part of this 5-year plan, that there was kind of a schedule of things that needed to be done over the next 5 years. But he would be the resource as far as I know. And my understanding from Dan is, and somebody else can point this out, for sure, is that there is a dedicated fund which has somewhere between $12,000 and $20,000 in it that is the part of that whole idea or that whole process. But others may know more about that than I do. One final comment regarding the roof. Leonard Butters suggested that when we get to the point of looking at the roof, that the north-facing roof, which would be a considerable square footage, may have fared better than the south-facing roof, and to consider possibly a phased re-roofing that would re-roof the south side. And maybe the north side could go for another 4 or 5 years because it gets far less sun, and the sun is what deteriorates roofing. And then you're also going to have to deal with whether or not the solar panels have to be removed, or whether you can work around the solar panels with slight movement of the edges of them, because the roof underneath the solar panels for the last 13 years has been protected from the sun. So those are some things that somebody needs to get into.
Maybe the first thing we could do in terms of a priority is just to update the maintenance schedule. Replacement and maintenance schedule.
Well, I heard 3 different priorities mentioned there. One was purely to plan to replace the roof. One was to update the repair and replacement plan, and one was to fund the repair and replacement plan. Not to say that you have to have all of those, but I thought you might want to write them down as you're brainstorming here.
Mhm.
So fund repair replacement plan. And how do you want me to word the roofing one?
Maybe just plan for a roof replacement. I don't know. For eventual roof replacement, something like that. I'd say you may decide you want to fold it in with the others, but right now the repair and replacement plan, we have to siphon off of that fund from time to time due to unexpected problems, like somebody ripping apart our light posts. That cost us $1,500 to fix, unbudgeted. So
Maybe we need a fund like that, like an unexpected. I mean, the video cameras, if we're going to install video cameras, I know there was a theft at church not too long, or just a couple weeks ago, for the young man who lost his backpack.
yeah.
That's probably another unexpected cost of putting in cameras.
Right. That kind of stuff comes up. So, but the issue is that we have, we've had trouble funding the repair and replacement fund when we generally put together a big bold plan, and then it gets whittled down through the budgeting process. And oftentimes we have to focus on what we know we have to have right now, right? So the repair and replacement fund gets whittled down. So it's hard for me to imagine that we'd be able to fund our repair and replacement plan and keep it untouched and then have another fund. But who knows?
Yeah, right now, there is not a repair and replacement fund that I can find in the special funds report or in the budget. So I don't
Yeah,
believe there's.
I know it's there. What do we call it though? I don't think it's called repair and replacement anymore. Rebecca would know, but she always tells us how much is left in it. So I know she has it itemized somewhere.
Well, I think it'd be property maintenance, repair and improvements. And
Yeah.
so there's 10,900, but that's what's been used to pay for the parking lot stuff. And it's not a dedicated fund for the roof.
No.
No, not for the roof, but the whatever the replacement fund is now would be the fund that the roof would go into, right? So I mean that plan was initially at this point should have had if we were able to maintain it at the rate that it required. Tom, you can probably answer this, but it would have been tens of thousands of dollars, not just 10,000.
Oops,
Tom,
you're muted,
you're
Tom.
muted.
The concept was, and Don Willingham worked with it because he developed a spreadsheet for like 30 years. And in it, we listed all of the projects that were likely to be done. For instance, with a furnace, if the furnace had a life of 20 years and we were 12 years into the life of that furnace, then the replacement of the furnace was projected as 8 years out. And that was done for probably 25 or 30 different physical features of the church. And then that gave you an estimate of how much you needed to put in each year in order to have the money available. And sometimes the fund would have had $80,000 or $90,000 in it. And then after a big expenditure, it would drop down to $15,000 or $20,000. And as Todd said, and everybody knows, the first thing to be eliminated when we're putting together a budget is paying that fund the amount that it was necessary to keep it up. And I've got an electronic file. I just was looking at it as a matter of fact, but the one who knows the most about that situation now is Dan Ekrit, when he's available to help somebody out. And of course, he's on the operations team, so that's illogical.
So I think it makes sense that the first thing we should do is update that repair and replacement plan to see where we are in terms of life expectancy of the different of the furnace, et cetera.
So really, it's all somewhat similar to this number 2 from last year, is taking care of our church building, but now we just have a little bit deeper understanding of what that means, it sounds like. So that's good. Anything else? I mean, we can't prioritize a whole bunch more because that's going to be a really big expense. All of those things are. But
Yeah.
does anybody want to add anything else?
Well, if you set up repair funds like that, they have to be protected so they're not looted for the emergency of the moment. And that's obviously what's happened over the years here, because we don't have anything for any of these looming capital expenses. But so that it's hard to save when you need the money elsewhere.
Yeah.
Well, at some point, maybe there is going to have to be a capital fund. When is the last time we've ever done a capital fundraising? Has anybody been around for that? I'm sure, Tom, you must have been around. Dick, have you been around for that? I don't recall.
Well,
So, yeah.
the last time we did anything that you might resemble a capital fund drive, and it was entirely a voluntary thing, was the solar panels. We didn't need solar panels, But what we did was we raised about $55,000 to $60,000 from ourselves, but it wasn't a formal capital fund drive.
About the chapel, remember that? I mean, how did we get the money for that?
That would have been a capital fund drive by definition, I think.
Right, right. I think some people just wanted it and they had the money and we built it.
It's kind of not really as exciting to have a capital fund raising project for a roof replacement.
But
Yeah.
Lynn, it would be a really good idea for us to set up and fund a, basically a building maintenance fund repair replacement plan. Take Don Willingham's and
Yeah,
then
I agree.
have that as a priority, a board priority to actually sock money away, because we do have the PPP grants. So there is money this upcoming year that we could create the funds and protect them just like we've done with the endowment, and then you could fund it this year.
I wonder if during the next generosity campaign, it could be twofold. Pledges for the coming year, operating costs, and then ask if people would like to pledge money, for to build up our repair and replacement fund. Just an idea.
I mean, I think that Craig and Darrell are exactly right. I would love to see this repair and replacement plan updated, made current, projected out with costs and the anticipated dates when those expenditures are going to have to be covered, and then sort of like prorated streams, for each of those that work to ensure that when it is necessary to cover the cost, that that the monies are available. And maybe there is some money from the PPP that could be put in to sort of like kickstart this. That's something that is a thought. And then with a head start, a running start to this, we could identify it as one of the causes for which we do fundraising explicitly, so that there's a point at which we solicit from the congregation fund specifically for our physical plant, just making sure we've got a home.
I may be wrong about this, but I thought the PPP monies were for salaries.
That's what I thought too. I wondered if there were any
Couldn't be used.
changes in rules because they've been forgiven, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, they have to be used for salaries, but I don't know how much of that, is moving the ball under the shell or not, if we're able to divert. If there's a surplus, I don't know that there is a surplus. That would be a surprise to me that money's just sitting there unused. But if it is, we still paid our staff, so it's not like, there were very specific dollars that were meant for paying our staff and then other dollars for everything else. So I mean, if we paid our staff and we had the deferment payments, then that's what it came out of. So if there's a surplus, wonderful.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Craig may know more about that at this point than I do. I don't think that's the case, that they're just, those blocks of money are just sitting there unused. But maybe they are.
They have not been spent yet, I guess. It's just the last one is sitting in reserve. And I'm not sure also, I have to talk to Lynn about the actual, if there's supposed to be a special paper trail that shows that they go directly to staff wages. I'm not sure about that, but.
I mean, I know we kept them in reserve, until they were forgiven, because we didn't want to have to pay them back if they weren't, but are you, when you say the last one, do you mean the first one, or do you mean the second one, Craig?
Yeah, the second one, we're not going to spend this year at all, is my understanding.
Yeah, because we would spend it next year. And we took last year's that we kept in reserve, and then we spent it this year.
Right.
So it takes about a year for them to get forgiven. Is that the,
Well, it takes
how
a
it
few, it
works?
takes a few months. Yeah, at least a number of months. And since our year is, sort of starts in July, halfway through the year, if it kicks in, we've started our new year. So
Gotcha.
I think that's right.
So Lynn, up there in last year's priorities, there was one about holding activities that will promote church cohesiveness after the pandemic. I don't know if we're after the pandemic yet, but
Right.
it still seems like that would be, a valuable goal. And perhaps if we're creative, could be combined with a roof capital campaign. I don't know, everybody working in a cohesive way to get back together and fix our roof. I don't know exactly how to do that, but it seems like a worthy goal.
A barn raising.
I guess that's where my brain was going, Dick. So something like that. I don't think we are all going to get up on the roof and hammer down, roofing tile or anything, but.
Well, I'm happy to put something in like that, but I just want you to tell me how to state that. This holding activities, I love this idea, but I think I saw a brief with Craig's email to us right before the meeting started, is really from our perspective about funding activities, if people want to have activities. I know that Candace and Sue Stieritz have been doing some planning and having some activities. And I've talked to Sue Stieritz, who loves to do that kind of stuff. And I don't know about how those kinds of things get funded, but it's the holding activities that will promote church cohesiveness after the pandemic that made me nervous. Just that language, because I thought we as a board have a whole bunch of stuff on our plate, and I didn't want to plan a chili cook-off or something, but Sue might, and I think it should be funded, and I think those kinds of things definitely should have some sort of support, hopefully. I'm happy to word that however you want, but they almost seem like two different things to me. You're talking about something really specific.
Well, why don't you just say fund activities then, if maybe that's what you're looking for, at least in terms of a board priority, fund activities if we're to nourish cohesiveness.
I like that word, nourish, too.
Yeah, I'm just ripping it off from Todd.
I would also say that all four of those priorities have been achieved. Not to say that they can't be ongoing, but we had a very good stewardship campaign, especially given all the crap we went through. We took care of our building, and even though we do siphon off of the capital repair and replacement fund, we're siphoning off it for things that we're supposed to fix with it. The floor has been refinished, for example. That was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some problems with the heating units went out last week. We had to have one of those repaired, but that's what that fund is for. So even though you get 15 or 20,000 in there, and then you have to spend 5 to 8 during a year and then try to make up for that again. So it feels like we're not really building on it, but at least we're using it for what it's for. And we have had some activities. One, I think the services have been going well. I think that that the recovery that we had to go through has moved along rather quickly. I experience our services as being very happy, energetic services between both those who are present and those who are observing online. In addition to some of the activities like, Candace has been involved in a couple, I think. The celebration of my 10 years was nice. The Thanksgiving event that we're having this week. Seems there was a church picnic, those sort of things are going on, even in the midst of COVID. And I can tell you right now, there's been a lot of folks that have been enabled to ask me for help because I've helped quite a few with quite a lot. So I would just let you know that those priorities have been met.
Yay.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
that's,
good.
Well, then that's enough, because next year at this time, we don't want to say, oh, we haven't done any of these things.
yeah.
That's right.
One more that I think we might want to consider is, and I don't know exactly how to put it, but some sort of initiative to sort of like grow the congregation, raise awareness, attract people, network with others, sort of something that will sort of visibly impact the congregation by introducing some new faces. And I have seen some new faces. It's not that this isn't something that is happening, but I think that we might want to attend to it, especially as we come out of COVID. I think there may be a lot of people that are looking for opportunities to, be in community once again.
Would that involve then like kind of advertising our church in different publications or online?
It could. I'm not proposing any specific kinds of measures. I think, but just as a kind of a high level thing that I think that would be nice that we know. So and also, Todd has mentioned that we're getting good virtual attendance, and not just from our own members who are staying at home rather than driving across West Canada to come to the church, but from other communities and so on. Maybe there's an opportunity for growing that constituency, sort of like mindfully and deliberately and effectively growing that constituency as well. I mean, I think that it could be well worth our directing some attention to this in the coming year. My thought.
Tom?
When it's appropriate, I found an executive summary about this repair and replacement team that Linda Mulder and I sent to the board in 2011. And I could make a less than a 1 minute commentary about some of the things, just so you get a more clear framework of what was going on, if it's of interest.
Okay.
Yeah. But wait,
Hold on
before we go, don't we want to write something down for
I
what
do.
Dick was just saying?
I
Like,
do. Yeah. Before we,
How about networking? 'Cause I was actually thinking a goal similar to what Dick was trying to describe as well. Sort of like Todd's going off and talking with the other churches.
Yeah.
These organizations have been withdrawn from the UUA. There is no Pacific Northwest organization or whatever it was called before. So, yeah.
Pacific Northwest District exists in name only, as far as I can tell right now.
Right.
so is that what are we? So
Sure.
that's almost two different things to me, guys. Networking with other churches in our district or area, or any churches nationally, because this is, I do think we are certainly known nationally. Networking, or are you talking about membership growth? Or
Maybe
both?
both. They're different. I'd say both.
Mhm.
Networking with other
Yeah.
communities, other church communities, and that's the one I was kind of thinking of. I was thinking about it in terms of that our endowment fund, and how we were like, well, what's really going on here? It's like, well, let's ask other churches, that are also members.
Okay.
Even, is there any, Todd had been to these fellowships up in Twisp and Kalispell. Might we, look to developing closer relationships with them? Just a question.
Yeah, I think that would be really nice, I'm trying to think which congregation it was now in Kalispell or Twisp that had been contacting Rebecca and found her very helpful on, it was the one in Twisp. They found it very helpful speaking with her about budgeting stuff and finance stuff and that sort of thing. So they have a treasurer who's, a wonderful guy, but like a lot of churches, they have trouble having volunteers. And so he's been the treasurer for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And he desperately wants out, and they're desperately trying to, twist arms of anyone who walks in the door, which of course runs people off. So they just don't have the mentorship to try to navigate through that. And I've thought, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we could, help people with some of that on our end.
Great.
Anyway, yeah, those would be a couple of great congregations to help.
So Lynn, put the word after networking, say networking and maybe mentoring, because that was a good word. That's the way maybe to be helpful to them.
Yeah.
Relatively easy. I mean, if they could just ask a question, how hard it is to look things up and figure it out yourself sometimes. Just ask somebody who's done it.
Yeah.
Oh. Great. Okay. Tom, you want to give us your,
Well,
or unless anybody else has any other last minute additions? Okay, Tom, thanks.
okay, what I just said to all of you was about a 3 or 4 page document, and it starts out with an executive summary that Linda Mulder and I worked on, and then we made excerpts to the executive summary. But just to give you the framework, I'll just read the first paragraph. It said the original capital repair replacement fund study was prepared in August of 2002, and I was the chair of that, at the direction of the board to assist the church with setting aside an annual reserve amount for the purpose of financing long-term capital repair and replacement. And after the board considered the 3 options that presented, the board adopted the option that provides for no debt and 1, an operating fund contribution to the annual reserve fund in the amount of between $3,000 and $10,000 per year through 2017, 2018. And a $43,000 balloon contribution after the mortgage is retired, and followed by 22,500 contributions through 2024, declining to 20,000 through 2028. So you can, get a sense for how far out we were trying to go. And then it even mentions the thing, it says the original report detailed major expenditures, including related to roofing the 2 pitched roofs, repainting the high ceiling areas of the sanctuary, new carpeting, blah, blah, blah. So that summary I sent to you will give you a sense of what was originally intended. And then by working with Dan, you can come up with where we're now at, a greatly deteriorated concept, but maybe one that there's some integrity left that you can continue somewhat in the spirit that was originally intended. And this executive summary was in July of 2011. So there you go.
Wow, great. Thank you. So you sent that to all of us.
Yes.
Okay. Very helpful. Okay, guys, let me put this one down. Bring up the document that Craig sent to us. I think he sent it to everyone. Is that correct, Craig?
Yeah. So it was just to get the ball rolling. I mean, you've now added many. Oh, we're talking about this. Just a minute here.
Sorry. Yep.
Yes,
Switch
so this would
quick now.
be, I just worked backward from the April 24th date for the congregational bylaw meeting. And I put in some posting times so that that we would provide notice to the congregation of what was up. And I also assumed that we would be doing the educational work on the bylaws with the congregation and getting their reaction and maybe some possible good additions to or revisions. We would do that on Sundays, maybe between the two services. And so that's my proposal there. This is the schedule. You can see that pretty much got to be working on it at the beginning of March. If we're going to work on bite-sized pieces each week. And then we'll be able to vote on it April 24th.
Did we want to include the articles of incorporation? The stuff that was not pro forma that we voted on last June?
Yeah, somewhere in here. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, we could add, in that, so we could work back another week and start in late February.
Yeah.
Start with articles of incorporation.
And, so maybe what we'd want to do is do that after the bylaws are done, then do the articles of incorporation, because basically the affiliation with the UUA would be the big thing, and that would involve both the bylaws and the articles of incorporation.
So that would
I
be
mean-
in here.
Yeah, but then if we put it there,
Everything would just be back a week.
yeah. But I'm not sure exactly what is proposed in the articles of incorporation. Is it just the edits that Tom Mosier has been talking about the last couple of weeks, where we don't change that, we're not proposing to change the status of our membership in the UUA. Is that right? We're just doing the minor word changes that Tom Mosier has suggested?
Well,
We're
let me,
thinking about removing we don't have to have anything in our articles of incorporation that says we're members of the UUA. Isn't this what you proposed, Tom?
Right.
yeah,
So
just
we could just take it out.
eliminating Article 5 and
Right.
dealing with the relationship with UUA strictly in the bylaws.
Right.
I would
Right.
suggest that and the other part of the Articles of Incorporation is the dissolution. And those two items in the Articles of Incorporation dovetail with either Articles 1 or Article 2. So it's hard to talk about one without talking about the other. I think it ought to be wrapped into,
Up here.
yeah, so wherever that is. And the other comment I have is, boy, maybe you guys are far more optimistic than I am. I see fewer articles being undertaken at a time, or having a fallback plan. If in Articles 1 through 4, you only get through Articles 1 and 2, that's what my concern is, that each one of those bites off a larger chunk than I just think you might find yourself with not enough time, the limit of keeping somebody in meetings at most an hour and a half, I think.
Well,
So
that's
maybe
why
it'll be-
when we're presenting these, though, we're not going to be doing it at the level that we have gone through. And well, should we put this word here or that word there? It's going to be a fait accompli, and we're trying to express the gist of what changed in each of those articles. So it's a presentation, not really, and then feedback, I think. So
Well, and
is that true, Lynn? What do you?
that's the way I see it too. And I also think that we, as soon as we are done, I mean, there are some people, not a lot to talk to, but there are some people who are ready to read this. They want it right now. Why, I don't know why we would need to wait March 6th. If we're
True.
done, why can't
True.
people have this and
Mhm.
they can be making comments and, you know, we, there's nothing that talks about table in the back of the sanctuary and taking notes if somebody wants to comment to a board member, if you've got a red ribbon on your name tag, write it down and we could just kind of keep track of those things as people talk to us. And then when we do have these meetings, we'll have some things already probably discussed or written down. And
So you're not seeing these workshops as ones in which you're going to receive commentary that you're then going to have to go back and consider revising something based on people's remarks. See, that's what I thought.
I think we are.
No, we are, but that we are. I'd say we are.
I would say we are too. And I don't anticipate us, well, I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't anticipate leaving off our Monday workshops ever until this is done.
Wait. Did you just say ever?
Until this done. Oh, trust me.
So this schedule is just, I started with April 24th and worked backward. It's, the minimum. We could have more Sundays, or we could schedule them starting in January. This is just the tightest it could be. I also think Tom is right. We shouldn't schedule it between the two services. We should do it after the second service so that there's plenty of time. And that'd probably be better.
I would I suggest you consider starting at the beginning of February and allowing yourself a week between each of the sessions so that you have a chance to work through in your regular Monday night.
Idea.
I don't know. You guys have to decide. I'm just concerned that it's too compressed and starting too late. But
I think there's some wisdom in Tom's words. I think we might start off, like in February, hold the first one, aim for getting through maybe 3 articles. See what, and then have it as a sort of a discussion. I mean, I think what Betsy said makes sense. What we don't want to do, and at least in my mind, what we don't want to do is we don't want to put up that document that has all of the black, all of the red, and all of the blue. What it is that we've been doing. That is the sort of like rigorous record of what was and what we have changed and what we're proposing. But for discussion with the congregation, I think the way to go about it would be say, so Article 1, Section 1, the gist of it is this, and it hasn't been changed. Section 2, the gist is this, and there was a change that we're proposing, and it's this, and just get it. So that we're just focusing in not on the words themselves, but the most important impacts, and then come back on our Monday night meetings and sort of make sense of what it is that we were hearing from the people that were giving feedback and providing commentary.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do like the idea of, I like a couple of ideas. I like my idea of getting this out there as soon as we're done. People don't need us to read it to them. And if people are interested, they're going to read it and process it and digest it at their leisure. And it can be available for whoever wants that to start as soon as it's ready. And then I really love the idea of a week in between, because then it comes for posting these revised bylaws. It's just ready to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the week in between too, posting them as soon as they're available. Sanctuary is fine, but wouldn't we do it online too? And we need a date in here to publish our plan as well.
Mhm.
Essentially, once, you know, Lynn, put it out there, let people read it when they want, but as soon as possible after that, or simultaneously publish this plan for feedback so that they know,
Absolutely.
right, so they know what
Mhm.
we're.
Absolutely. And there's no, we don't need any quorums or any number,
No.
certain number of people at any of these meetings. They're just workshops for people who are interested, right?
Yeah. And what Betsy said, I like, which is, I think that we should, hold these, for example, in the chapel, perhaps, in the church after the meetings. But they should also be available as we're doing them live on Zoom, because they're going to be those people who don't attend in-person church, so they won't be coming to it in person, but they may want to sit in.
Well,
Well,
I'm,
Okay,
oh, go ahead.
Just
Hey.
a couple of mechanic things. Once you finalize this, I'm going to have a fairly incredible task of producing a document from all of the red, the blue, and the black. And that's and I'm gonna only be able to work on that an hour or two at a time before I need to take a break. So you better figure out that I'm gonna take a week to produce something, and then you even may want to review it yourselves. But ultimately, I thought that going out to the congregation, if you're going to hold a workshop on March 13th, that you would either send out the articles 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever you're going to work on for people to have and comment on, or send out the whole document and then just say, we're going to work on these articles. I'm thinking of mechanics of circulating, because it's ultimately you're going to try to get to a meeting in which you're going to say, we're going to have an up or down vote because you all have had these in your hands for the last 9 weeks. And we've had 12 workshops or 5 workshops, and we've gone through this and we responded to your comments when we thought they're appropriate, but nonetheless, this is our revised version. And we're going to have a motion to have an up or down vote on this, which will ultimately take a 2/3 vote. So, all these things kind of have to be documented as to your process and procedure, but please allow me at least a week once you finalize it to produce a document that then I think you ought to circulate by email to everybody. Whether you can run a Zoom meeting simultaneously or not, I don't know. That stuff's above my pay grade.
Okay. Hey, Tom, I've got new dates. Lynn, if you're ready to write them down here, that would accomplish that.
Okay.
So for the post draft bylaws and sanctuary, that would be Sunday, January 30th. And then the next one down would be February 6th for the first 4. Oh, and by the way, that would be articles 1 through 3 instead of 1 through 4, I guess.
And the articles of
Okay.
incorporation, or no?
Yeah, we could try that.
Where did
And
you
then,
say, excuse me for a minute, Craig, where did you say those were most relevant, along with what parts of the bylaws, Tom? You said that a minute ago.
Oh, let me pull up my version of it here, and I think it's Article 2 and Article 1, but
Okay, perfect. Then we got
Yeah.
it in the right spot.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
then the next one would be February 20th. And the next one would be March 6th. And the next one would be March 20th. And the next one would be April 3rd. And so then that gives us then 3 weeks to, so then after the April 3rd, there'd be 3 weeks to review what, and maybe Tom would have that. Would you need the 3 weeks, or otherwise we could bump everything up a week?
Well, this is posting the revised bylaws, so maybe we should go, because all the workshops are done then. So maybe this should be closer to the vote time, right? Because we're done here.
Yeah, as if you're making updates after each workshop, that I can be incorporating those. So, I can be following you pretty closely after each workshop by updating stuff. So you don't need that 3 weeks.
Okay, how about 2 weeks? And then we could up the schedule. So instead of April 3rd, that would be April 10th. And then going back up the list, March 20th would then become
7th.
Yeah, the 27th, right?
March 27th.
Yeah.
That's right. And
Could
then
I-
the next one's the 13th.
Yep.
Could I suggest that you, where each of the ones that you have post something, that you also put in circulate PDF version to, to the full congregational membership mailing list?
Say that again, Tom, every
well,
time we
well,
update something?
Well, to post something in the sanctuary is pretty non-functional. What are you going to do? Have 15 people try to crowd around, read one document? You've got to get it out into the hands of the people. So I'm saying, or suggesting strongly, that you use the church email list and put out a PDF version for everywhere you say post. Also, well, you
Got
can
it.
post it, yeah, but
Mhm.
also circulate draft.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there would just be a link in the Sun on where to go for the.
Yeah.
That would work. That's newer technology than I usually think about.
So it's posted like on our website somewhere, or in the, there's a membership only place, isn't there?
So
Okay.
then February 20th becomes the 27th.
Okay.
And then February 5th, that becomes the 13th. And then that becomes the 6th of February.
See, look at that, Tom. We're giving you a whole bunch of time once we're done, because we're going to be done soon. You'll have all the way till February 6th.
When have I heard that before?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
And also, you need to clear this with a church calendar with Rebecca to make sure you're not on top of anything,
Ooh, yeah,
I think.
good point. Like a generosity campaign.
Some cohesion nourishing event that we
Yeah,
have to
and,
compete with.
the notices, you're gonna have to be responsible for notices of each of these upcoming events, so that they don't have to be like formal notice like in the bylaws for a congregational meeting, but people have to be made aware that that this is going to happen.
Yeah, that's pretty easy though. We could do that.
Good.
Yeah,
So if we have these dates on Sunday, let's say Sunday afternoon after the second service, and then the following Monday, we would look at the comments received on the previous day. And at that time, we would either incorporate, make changes or do whatever. And then we could, that would be how we would operate. So when we're actually thinking about the revisions to our draft, it would be fresh in our memory, I think.
yeah, I agree.
And
So-
it might be overly, that we're overworking this, and that my anxiety is not well-founded, and there'll be room enough for you to cancel the second workshop. After your board Monday night workshops after each of these church workshops.
Right, we might find out they love it.
Yes, right.
That's true.
And
Okay.
I'll also remember, I'll also update that other document that we haven't looked at for some time, that is the explanation. Figure out how to do that also. It needs some updating because you've made changes.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. Here we go. Okay, 7:38. I think that looks good. Anybody have anything else they need to do last minute?
Actually, Lynn, what are we sending to Rebecca as to our priorities?
Oh,
that-
I'm gonna just send that list.
Well, I think
It-
it's quite a broad list. I think we should somehow rank those into just a few. I mean, that's,
You want, okay, I can send that around to you guys like Dick did for us last year.
Sure.
Will that work?
okay.
Mhm.
That sounds good.
Sure. And then how do you propose that we rank them?
Well, the way that I did it last year was each individual just ranked them in his or her preferred order, first being like highest priority and second being next highest and so on. And then what I did was just went through and did like arithmetic means of what the rankings were for each of those ones, tally them up, and you get the average ranking, and those will distribute themselves out according to the sense of the board. That's what I did anyway last year.
So you just compiled it after everybody, we all sent you it back, our
Yeah.
rankings back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Does that work for you, Craig?
Okay, yeah, just so we have a procedure in place. Everyone's
Yeah,
at the same.
I'm glad you brought that up because I would have just sent her the list and it wasn't prioritized. That was a really good idea. Great. I'll send that to you guys tomorrow. Okay, so we wanted to talk about Todd's minister's minute. And
or we
Yeah.
could go into executive session.
or we could go into executive session and work on our stuff, ministerial agreement.
So is Todd going to,
Todd's
Be
going to
with us
join
then?
us.
he is going to join us this time, okay?
Is everybody okay with doing that? And perhaps, I mean, it's going to happen, sounds like, that the UU World is going to publish Todd's name. And I do believe that we probably should, or not probably, I believe that we should respond.
Mhm.
And I think we have some time to think about how we want to do that. And maybe
Right.
we can really consider that a bit more thoughtfully. And then perhaps we can discuss it. I mean, we have another meeting in December, of course. I don't know when the UU World comes out. But yeah,
Yeah,
Tom.
Well, if you're there, Todd, can you clarify? Because I thought what you sent me was that they said they weren't going to do it in the UU World because it's only published semi-annually and they were going to send out some other separate communication. Am I
Oh,
recalling?
I thought they were going to do it in both the UU World and their website. Let me
Okay.
double check here.
And remind me, since you're double checking, Todd, what it is they're doing exactly? I did listen to your minute, but I forgot.
Yeah, well, let me make sure I got it straight before I tell you what they're doing.
I think the UU World comes out, twice a year now? I mean, they
Yeah.
cut back on their frequency, as I recall.
Yeah, semi-annually.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right, Tom. I misread it. So it says, I'm writing to give you a heads up about the below letter that will be going out from co-chairs of the MFC this week. Your name appears on it. And so the letter says that, dear congregational presidents and you religious professionals. Okay, so it's not going in the, it says in the past, they put it in UU World Magazine milestones. But this year they're doing it in their, the UU World is only published twice a year. So it's impractical to search. So they'll soon publish a compiled list on its website.
So they're putting this list of defamed ministers on their website. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Oh,
and,
on
and,
their
and linking it to abuse and unethical behavior. So it says recognizing, I mean, you want me to read this now, or do you want me to wait until you go into executive session, or what?
No, you can read it now. I think
right.
whoever's here should know
Dear
about that.
congregational presidents and UU religious professionals, the UUA is a justice-seeking institution committed to accountability and safety for our faith communities and the people we serve. This includes transparency regarding clergy who have been removed from UUA fellowship due to violations of the UUMA Code of Conduct or other behavior deemed unbecoming of a minister by the Ministerial Fellowship Committee of the UUA, which has the sole authority over the granting of ministerial credentials as well as the removal of such credentials. In the past, the UUA relied on the UU World Magazine milestones section as the most transparent way to list ministers removed from fellowship. The UU World is only published twice a year at this time, and it is impractical to search the archives of the magazine for this information. Therefore, the UUA will soon publish a compiled list on its website. Recognizing that the standards for clergy conduct have evolved, in other words, they've changed them despite what these so-called ethics, anyway, I won't comment, and continue to do so as our understanding has grown about the nature of abuse. The list is in no way a complete historic record. It represents only cases where there were formal misconduct complaints filed, adjudicated by the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, and a minister was either suspended or removed from fellowship or resigned in the midst of a misconduct process. The UUA's commitment to congregational polity means that only congregations have the right to ordain ministers, and thus the MFC does not have the power to remove ordination or even to force a minister to resign from a position if a congregation does not vote removal or termination. In the interest of accountability and the safety of the congregations and communities we serve, the UUA believes that a minister who has been removed from fellowship is unfit to serve under the ethical standards we expect from UU ministers. In faith, and then it's signed by the co-chairs of the Ministerial Fellowship Committee on behalf of the MFC. So I'm not really sure if they're going to put it in the magazine or not, Tom. It doesn't say. It says they recognize that it only goes out twice a year, so they're going to put it on their website.
And that hasn't happened yet, as far as you know.
As far as I know, it hasn't. Let me look one more time to see. Well, yeah, it says, it says that the letter would be going out this week. So
And who is,
the real interesting thing is, Lynn, is if you are going to get the letter.
Yeah, who's the letter directed to?
Congregational presidents and religious professionals. So it's basically going to go to UU professionals, whether you're, who knows, certainly RE directors, ministers, UUMA members, congregational presidents.
So that's the board president, when they say congregational president, board president?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Lynn, you're our canary in the coal mine.
Well, I don't even know. How do they know who's the board president?
Well, you should be listed on our website.
I don't think I am. I think Dick is.
Still?
If
I
you're
haven't
still
gotten
on it-
anything.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if you don't. Anybody from our church doesn't with this law.
Right.
Yeah, no
That's the
kidding.
interesting thing that we,
Yeah.
I mean, we just have not, neither one of us as presidents and no one on this board has heard boo from the
No.
UUA. So I don't know. Todd, would you be willing to share that email with me? Would you forward that to me?
Sure, yeah. And you're welcome to forward it to the rest of the board.
Yes,
Sure.
please.
So,
Yeah, I just need to read that and
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just
Yeah.
so unbelievable. But
And Todd, so structurally, the UU Ministerial Fellowship Committee, that is what, elected by the Ministerial Fellowship Association?
no, that's, I'm not sure how their members are selected, but it is as I understand it is an office of the UUA. Whereas the UUMA, the UU Ministers Association,
Right.
is one whose officers are chosen by the ministers themselves, and their policies and whatnot are supposed to also be approved by their membership.
Okay. So this is a UUA operation, not a.
It's really the
UUA.
MFC. At this point, I consider them synonymous, UUMA, MFC.
Yeah, okay.
But it'd be interesting, I'm curious now because they don't actually say we're not going to put it in the magazine. We're only recognizing that our magazine only comes out twice a year.
And you can't search it.
And you can't search it. So, it probably means they're going to put it in the magazine too. They just want to make sure everybody gets the word.
yeah,
Well, you know what's going to happen. It's going to end up in the hands of the president of the other UU community, and it's for sure going to be leaked to the newspaper by that source. That would be the only source, the way it would get there. So I think we should be prepared for somebody kind of throwing black paint on our door and our minister, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it. It's a fact, it's a done deal, and I don't even know I don't know what we could do. It's just a fact. It happened, and they're going to report that it happened. You guys.
no,
are
but
really
yeah,
tough.
but we're not sitting around for misconduct and abuse being
Right.
flung at our minister
No.
and therefore us.
Well,
Well, yeah, because they're saying that this church, is having a minister who is unfit.
Yes.
yeah, that's what's really, I mean,
Yeah.
what does that mean for us?
Right.
I mean, certainly care about you too, Todd, but.
Well,
what does
no,
it
you're right. It
mean?
is a congregational concern. And more interesting is going to be, do we get the letter?
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get the
And-
letter, this goes further to the point of them not communicating or even having any regard for this congregation whatsoever.
Which is
Precisely.
why we want to network with all those other congregations. Hey, did
Precisely.
y'all get the letter?
Yeah.
So Craig, have you been in touch with Rick Davies or Craig Morrow or any of the other people that might, possibly also be on this blacklist?
Well, I've been in touch with Craig and Rick. They both, are as disgusted with it
Yeah.
as you are. They have both, however, resigned from the UUMA. They've not been disfellowshipped. There have been, I know Kate Rohde has been disfellowshipped
Mhm.
for comments made on Facebook.
Right.
And I know of another young man who I've not communicated with that was also disfellowship for racial bullying on Facebook, which is code for he said something that somebody didn't like, and so therefore it's bullying. So that's at least 3 of us that I know that have been discredited.
It'd be interesting to see who gets the letter, like whether we get the letter, whether like Rick Davies and Craig Morrow get the letter, whether like the Valley UU Church down in Phoenix gets the letter or not.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, I will forward that to everybody else, and I'll send the other stuff tomorrow. And then we'll come up with a plan. I mean, I think that something probably, I don't know, Todd, I always think back to also wise words from you of sometimes not responding, means don't give up your power. And, but at this point, I don't know.
Other than we substantially disagree, period.
Vociferously disagree.
Yeah,
I think
I think that's it. You can't expect them to respond in any way.
Right.
But I think just one more, the more people that are pushing back, and that's really what John McWhorter says in his book, push back against this stuff, tell them, no, you're wrong. You don't have the moral high. Not only are you wrong, but you're immoral, you're unethical. You are the ones who are behaving unethically. And just continue to put that message to them over this or anything else. And so hopefully they will get it.
Well, I think it would be reassuring to our congregation to know that we responded.
Yeah, I agree.
Stood up for our minister.
Where
Yeah,
does
we
this,
should,
well, I was
our
gonna say,
response-
where does this fit in with Darrell's concern last time around, last week, about not ruffling any feathers if we're going to consider drawing out our money from the Common Endowment Fund? Would this be a ruffling of feathers?
no, I think we need to respond to clearly show that Reverend Eckloff did not commit any moral lapse, and that he is being condemned for speaking up to the UUA about UUA problems, and that we can clearly make a response like that. And I'd love to read that to the congregation. It'd be a pleasure.
Yeah.
Be one.
And
Yeah.
as I read
But
the UU CEF, the contract between the congregations and the UU CEF is pretty tight. And I don't think they can do anything to us related to the endowment. So I'm much less worried about that now than I was a couple of weeks ago.
No, good.
Well, and we're
But I
already
don't-
ruffling feathers by supporting Todd and keeping him as our minister, so.
But we can't, we have to wait till they act. So I think we should move on to other issues
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
down the road.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so Dorothy, I will send you an email of what time we finish up. I'm gonna remember to stop the recording. And we'll say goodnight to Tom and Francis and Dorothy.
Good night.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Dorothy.